Oh gosh, very improbable. Yeah, I mean, really, it's bordering on impossible. I learned somewhere in my college years that the difference between improbable.
What happens when the woman who built an empire around beauty, hope, and home loses control of her own body? For years, Joanna Gaines was America's quiet powerhouse, crafting perfect spaces, raising 5 kids, and building Magnolia into a lifestyle religion. In early 2025, the spotlight that had long shined on Joanna Gaines dimmed unexpectedly. Known for her poise and creative genius behind the success of Fixer Upper, Magnolia Network, and countless design ventures, Joanna collapsed on the set of Mini Renee during a renovation shoot. What appeared to be a brief disruption at first quickly escalated. An hour later, she was rushed to the hospital, and within days, Chip Gaines canceled all his scheduled appearances and declined a lucrative television contract. The diagnosis came. Joanna was battling systemic lupus erythematosus, a serious autoimmune disease that affects multiple organs and requires long-term treatment and rest. Joanna's health had been deteriorating quietly for months. As filming for Mini Renee intensified in late 2024, she began experiencing exhaustion she couldn't shake. Between scenes, she would sit to catch her breath, an unusual sight for someone who had always moved with quiet energy on set. Crew members noticed her slimmer figure, her tired eyes, and the way she rubbed her sides each time she leaned over a blueprint. Still, with deadlines looming, production pushed on. But in February 2025, the physical toll became too much. As cameras prepared to roll on another room transformation, Joanna collapsed again. Medical evaluations pointed to a flare-up of an autoimmune condition. After a series of tests, the diagnosis became more specific. Systemic lupus. The disease, known for causing fatigue, joint pain, skin rashes, and organ damage, forced her to step away from her high-paced life. The news wasn't publicly shared at first. However, her sudden absence from Magnolia Network and Mini Renee sparked questions. In March, the couple canceled a scheduled live appearance on The Today Show, which was meant to launch the new Magnolia content calendar. The Magnolia Network later posted a short statement. Joanna is taking time to care for herself and her family. It was simple but telling. Fans became more concerned when a behind-the-scenes video leaked, showing Joanna being helped into a car, looking frail and withdrawn. She was notably absent from the Mini Renee premiere in April. Speculation spiraled online. Joanna had gone silent on social media, and fans scoured her past posts for clues. In response, Chip finally broke his silence with a deeply personal photo on Instagram. Him holding Joanna's hand, captioned, "The light is always there, but sometimes it needs a little protection to continue shining." On May 1st, 2025, Magnolia released a 2-minute video. In it, Joanna, sitting next to Chip in their backyard, addressed the public. "I'm facing some health challenges. It's not easy to talk about, but I know I'm not alone." Chip added, "We're learning to slow down, and I'll be here until Joe is ready to come back." The video was quiet and raw. No music, no polish. Just truth. Following that message, Magnolia quietly adjusted the Mini Renee filming schedule. Joanna's name began to disappear from media credits and executive listings. Press events were canceled. Though there was no official retirement, Joanna had clearly stepped back from everything. Chip's response was equally telling. Once the energetic face of Magnolia, swinging hammers with flair and dancing around renovation sites, Chip grew quiet. He began turning down projects, including a proposed new international version of Fixer Upper that could have brought in tens of millions over the next 3 years. He also withdrew from his producer role and suspended all filming activities through the end of the year. Internally, Chip remained involved, but at a distance. At company meetings, he sat in the back, quietly flipping through old project notes he and Joanna once discussed. He left early to be home with their 5 children. Employees noticed the shift. There was no big announcement, but everyone understood what mattered most to him. As Chip stepped out of the spotlight, their daughter Ella stepped in. only 17, Ella had been shadowing her mother in the Magnolia office. When Joanna became ill, Ella began relaying messages from her mom to the production team. Gradually, she assumed more responsibility, managing design edits, fielding emails from partners like Target, and even shaping the brand's online voice. Without any official title, Ella became the heart of Magnolia during its most vulnerable moment. The rest of the Gaines children adjusted too. Youngest son Crew would ask daily, "How is mommy today?" MEK helped with Joanna's meals, printing nutritionist-recommended menus and taping them to the fridge. Duke followed Chip to meetings, taking notes for Joanna to review later. They were never told what to do, but each child found their own way to support the family. One employee recalled a powerful moment. All 5 Gaines kids sitting in a warehouse, carefully checking the covers of upcoming releases. Watching via security camera, Joanna wept. Not from pain, but from the overwhelming realization that her children had rallied around her. Although Joanna disappeared from the public eye, she remained close through short recordings and occasional design notes. Ella edited one of those recordings into a 45-second Instagram post that showed the family at dinner and clips of Joanna's soft-spoken reflections. "I've been running for 20 years, and now it's time to slow down. Not to stop, but so my kids can keep up." The post went viral with nearly 4 million views in days. Joanna's illness could have dismantled Magnolia. Instead, it became a quiet recentering. Magnolia didn't fall, it simply changed pace. Behind the scenes, Chip maintained operations. Strategy meetings moved online. Executives were given more autonomy. The Gaineses weren't handing over the empire, but they were redefining what leadership meant. In mid-2025, Joanna returned to the silos, unannounced. No cameras, no press, just a quiet gathering organized by Ella. "Welcome home, Mom," was scrawled on signs beside simple booths, showcasing new products inspired by Joanna's earlier work. She wore a coat and cap, thinner but serene. Colleagues clapped as she entered, and Joanna, overwhelmed, burst into tears. Crew clung to her leg. Ella guided her from table to table, explaining each piece she had helped finish. It was the first time in months anyone had seen Joanna smile fully. She didn't return to her old role and likely never will in the same way. Instead, she began writing a treatment journal, a private documentation of her experience. Encouraged by Chip, it evolved into a book project under Magnolia Books, one that would focus not just on her illness, but on healing, resilience, and the importance of knowing when to pause. Chip, too, continues to scale back. His public appearances are rare. His Instagram, once filled with comic sketches and home renovation antics, now features quiet moments. A coffee cup beside a crumpled blueprint, or Joanna napping on the couch wrapped in a blanket. No captions, no filters, just stillness. For years, Chip and Joanna were seen as the ideal power couple, balancing kids, a media empire, and a seemingly perfect marriage. But the real depth of their bond is emerging now, not in their ability to conquer projects, but in their ability to prioritize one another when it matters most. Joanna no longer fits the image of a do-it-all icon. She is instead a woman learning to respect her body's limits, making space for rest, and trusting her family to carry on what she helped build. Their story was never just about design. From the start, it was about love, authenticity, and building something real. When they first aired Fixer Upper in 2013, their chemistry and creative vision quickly turned them into household names. By the time the show ended in 2018, they had already grown Magnolia into a national brand, launching retail lines, publishing a magazine, building an entire lifestyle empire. But even then, their commitment to family guided every move. Over the years, they've faced legal disputes, criticism, and pressure from media and business partners. Their response was always the same: retreat quietly, make necessary changes, and move forward with grace. The lupus diagnosis wasn't a business crisis, but a personal one. And again, their choice was to turn inward. The summer break they took in 2024, initially thought of as routine, now appears to have been the first sign that something was amiss. Fixer Upper. The lake house aired during that time. A one-house, one-season project that felt more personal than polished. Mini Renee, released in 2025, marked Joanna's final direct contribution for now. Magnolia isn't collapsing. It's evolving. What was once a fast-moving empire is now a slower, more intentional space. Joanna is no longer a daily presence, but her touch is still evident. Chip, quieter and more grounded, continues to uphold the structure they've both built. Their children, particularly Ella, are beginning to step forward. And perhaps that's the greatest legacy Chip and Joanna are leaving. Not just beautifully renovated homes, but a family grounded in love, resilience, and faith. In choosing to slow down, they're proving what they've always preached on camera. The most important foundation isn't made of bricks or wood. It's built on commitment, trust, and unwavering support when life takes an unexpected turn. Joanna's return to the silos was not a grand media affair, but rather a quiet and heartfelt moment that captured the essence of who she truly is. It was a brisk morning in Waco, and only a few knew she would be arriving. There was no makeup crew, no network presence, just the Magnolia team, a few longtime colleagues, and her children. The booths were decorated with designs inspired by Joanna's earlier sketches, ideas she'd jotted down before her diagnosis. It wasn't a celebration of work, it was a celebration of presence. It was Ella's idea to call the event "Welcome Home, Mom," a phrase simple enough to be overlooked, but in that moment, profoundly healing. Joanna stepped inside, bundled in a thick coat and cap, visibly thinner, her steps slow but intentional. The applause was spontaneous and sustained. She wasn't ready for that. She broke down in tears, overwhelmed not just by the gathering, but by the fact that this team, her team, had carried on not in her absence, but with her in mind every step of the way. As she walked from booth to booth, Ella whispered updates, small stories about which design choice was made and why. Crew held on tightly to her leg, whispering, "We didn't touch your pencils." It made her laugh, and for the first time in months, a full, unguarded smile crossed her face. Though the visit was brief, it left a mark. Joanna didn't immediately return to the pace she once knew. Instead, she remained in the background, responding to emails with short, hand-typed notes, approving designs via FaceTime, offering gentle direction without the weight of responsibility. The physical toll of lupus was unpredictable. Some mornings she could walk in the garden, other days she barely had the strength to lift her head. But what became clear was this: she wasn't fighting this battle alone. Chip's transformation throughout this journey was just as striking. The man once known for his energy and boisterous charisma had shifted into a quiet guardian. Every business decision, every declined offer, was rooted in one unwavering priority: Joanna. While the media speculated about Magnolia's future, Chip was in the kitchen preparing her meals, reading over medical documents, or driving their kids to school. It was a new kind of project for him, one that didn't involve blueprints or sledgehammers, but demanded just as much heart and commitment. He declined opportunities that would have propelled Magnolia into new markets, turning down a proposed partnership in Europe and several high-profile appearances. Industry insiders were stunned. "It's unlike Chip to say no," one producer said. But this wasn't about television anymore. It was about love. It was about choosing presence over prestige. And Chip never hesitated. "When your partner is in the fight of her life," he told a close friend, "you don't chase cameras. You hold their hand." The Gaines children, still so young in the public's memory, began to show surprising maturity. Ella in particular showed leadership beyond her years. Though only 17, she navigated brand meetings, spoke with senior staff, and kept a notebook of her mom's wishes. At first, it was small things, reminding the team which color tones Joanna preferred for spring layouts, or which font she liked in the Magnolia Journal. But soon she was making decisions herself, with a blend of her mother's aesthetic and her own emerging voice. Duke, the quiet one, surprised everyone by accompanying Chip to internal meetings. He sat through design sessions, quietly observing, then summarized notes for Joanna in the evenings. Emmy Kay, always organized, took it upon herself to maintain her mother's dietary plans. She color-coded weekly menus, set timers for medication reminders, and kept the household running like a well-oiled machine. Even little crew, only 5, had a role. He'd draw pictures for Joanna daily, crayon sketches of their garden, of her resting on the couch, of a family dinner, then place them beside her bed with a kiss. The home became a sanctuary. The same farmhouse that had been renovated with such care now served a new purpose. Not just as a design statement, but as a place of healing. Their backyard, once a casual family space, turned into a routine walking trail. On good days, Joanna and Chip would do 2 laps, hand in hand. On bad days, they would sit in the sun, quietly, just existing. The silence wasn't awkward, it was sacred. It spoke more than words ever could. Joanna's medical journey was as challenging as it was humbling. Systemic lupus erythematosus, SLE, was aggressive in her case. The disease flared in waves. Sometimes her joints stiffened so badly she couldn't grip a pen. Other times, rashes and inflammation made even sleep uncomfortable. The treatment involved immunosuppressants, regular blood tests, and a complete overhaul of her daily habits. But beyond the physical discomfort, there was a deeper challenge: learning to let go. Joanna, for years the face and force behind Magnolia, now had to allow others to lead. This shift was not easy. There's a fear, she confided in one of her rare journal entries, that if I'm not steering the ship, it'll drift. But she slowly learned that her values were not lost just because her presence was. They had been embedded in the people she trusted, especially her children. During this time, Chip encouraged her to keep writing, not for the world, but for herself. She began journaling her treatment journey, documenting everything from the first collapse on set to the emotional toll of feeling helpless in her own home. The act of writing became therapy. What started as scribbles evolved into chapters. Eventually, Chip gently suggested turning it into a book. "Not for them," he said, pointing toward the world. "For us, for the kids, so they know what strength really looks like." The book became a labor of love. Part memoir, part diary, part letter to the future. It didn't focus on success or fame. It was a raw, honest account of living with an invisible illness, of loving when you feel broken, and of letting your family carry you when your own legs fail. Magnolia Books will publish it in early 2026. Proceeds, as announced quietly by Ella, will go to autoimmune disease research. While Joanna stepped back, Magnolia moved forward with quiet resilience. The company's leadership shifted internally. More creative directors were promoted. The design team began hosting rotating workshops rather than full-scale events. Magnolia Network pivoted toward documentary-style programming and reruns of legacy shows. Joanna's name remained, but her role shifted into something more symbolic. A reminder of what the brand stood for. What surprised many was how this shift didn't weaken Magnolia. In fact, fans resonated more than ever. Comments on social media posts expressed not disappointment, but admiration. "Take all the time you need," one comment read. "You've given us beauty for years. Now let us give you our support." Others shared stories of their own battles with illness, how watching Joanna's honesty helped them feel seen. Chip's social media presence changed too. Gone were the goofy videos and behind-the-scenes bloopers. Instead, he posted images that spoke of simplicity: a steaming mug of tea, a morning sunbeam falling across the kitchen floor, a child's hand on his. His captions were brief, poetic even. One post read, "The house is quiet, but the heart is full." Another simply, "She smiled today." Through it all, they never announced a farewell. There was no final episode, no press release declaring retirement. What unfolded instead was something far more powerful. A couple redefining what strength looks like, choosing to slow down without falling apart. In a world obsessed with pace, the Gaines family embraced stillness. Joanna's reappearance at Magnolia's Spring Design Review in June 2025 was another quiet milestone. She didn't lead the meeting, she didn't even speak. She just sat, listened, nodded occasionally, but the team felt her presence. Afterward, she left handwritten notes for each team member, praising small details, the curve of a chair leg, the soft hue of a paint swatch. She notices everything, a designer said, fighting back tears. Even when she's hurting, she still sees us. Today, Chip and Joanna continue their life in Waco, surrounded by their children, supported by a team they trust, and grounded in values that have withstood both fame and hardship. They haven't chased relevance. They've chosen truth. And in doing so, they've created something more enduring than a network or a brand. They've built a legacy rooted not in what they achieved, but in how they lived, together. And with that, the light from the Gaines family, though dimmer on screen, shines even brighter in the hearts of those who followed them, reminding us all that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is simply stay. Joanna Gaines' story isn't just about sickness or slowing down. It's about redefining what it means to live well, even when life no longer fits the plan. It's a reminder that strength doesn't always look like a polished kitchen or a finished project. Sometimes it looks like letting go, trusting your people, and choosing presence over perfection. And as the world watched Magnolia from the outside, her family was building something far more enduring on the inside. If this story moved you, if it made you think differently about health, fame, or family, let us know in the comments. We're sharing more untold stories just like this. Real lives, real turning points, and the truths that rarely make headlines. So subscribe if you haven't already,